Hello, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And it's been quite disturbing, which is why at this time, early in the morning, although I'm trying to sleep, I just cannot sleep. So I've decided to do this podcast. If you remember in my previous episodes, I've talked about Khatija Shah, and now it's getting worse because, as you know, in my previous episode I also talked about how Rana Sanaullah confesses that yes, the female PTI workers and all the women that they had illegally arrested and kidnapped from their homes are being raped in while in jail. And it seems that Imran Khan actually picked up the point by saying, why did they suddenly confess to the rapes of the female members of PTI, and why did they confess to the rapes of the women they kidnapped from their homes? And it means something has gone very, very, very wrong. And now they are scrambling to create a cover up story. And that point of his was picked up by, and is still being picked up by now many other reporters and journalists who obviously cannot talk about it on mainstream media, so they are airing it on social media. And one such case that they seem to feel is that something has gone wrong with Khatija Shah, which is why Rana Sanaullah had to be woken up in the middle of the night to give an emergency press conference where he admits to rapes, rape cases while in the custody of their own police. So I think one of the worst things that we can say is that the Canadian embassy, the Canadian government has acted in a very, I would say, very unprofessional manner, considering how Khatija Shah is actually a Canadian national. So she has dual nationality, which means she's not just a Pakistani national, but she's also a Canadian national. And one would not have expected the Canadian embassy or the Canadian government to act like an American government or embassy, where they would immediately get hands off instead of doing something to save their citizens. I think I could put that down as racism as well as part of political conspiracy, because I am in no mood to, sorry to say, but I am really not in the mood to pamper the Canadian government at this point, because from where I stand, if a government cannot protect its own citizens, then it's useless. It's absolutely useless. What's the point of having a Canadian passport if you cannot reach out to your Canadian embassy for help? Khatija Shah's family reached out to the Canadian embassy. A lawyer was sent, but just look at how they did their job. The lawyer was sent, and because a video that was so obviously forced or fabricated in the sense that yes, it is Khatija Shah in the video, yes, she is making the statements, but it's so obvious that she is forced to make those statements. You can practically see that she is reading a script somewhere, and that the fact that it was in English was made specifically to clamp the Canadian government or the Canadian embassy down. And it was extremely stupid of the Canadian embassy to actually fall into that trap. If indeed they did fall into that trap, and that is if it was not a deliberate act on their part as well, where they were accomplices to this conspiracy, because the very obvious forced confession taken from her, which does not even match her current condition, because everybody in the media, everybody in the amongst the journalists, the reporters, the anchors, all the news, the investigations that's been going on, all the news that has been coming out regarding Khatija is that she is not in a good condition, and that allegedly, and I'm saying allegedly because I feel it's worse than that. So allegedly, she's got a stomach problem, and which is why she wasn't even able to talk or to listen or to hear or to communicate in any way. So I think that's not just a stomach problem, if you get what I'm saying. The fact that that news is circulating with confirmation, and still the Canadian embassy's lawyer chooses to accept that video. Now, here's my case that I'm going to put forward. Okay, if this was a pure white Canadian national, do you think that the Canadian embassy would have easily accepted that video? I don't think so. They would have still fought for that national. I know that because I've seen American embassy do that a million times. As long as they know that it's a pure white Caucasian American citizen abroad, even if that person has committed murder, the American embassy works for their case. And this, we all know, it's on the record. There was a very famous case a few years ago, if you remember, of an American girl, a student, who had murdered her fellow student. And the American embassy did not surrender or allow her to be surrendered. And they still worked all the way till the end. Their lawyers worked all the way till the end with her, for her, even though later on she still had to face trials and everything. But every step of the way, they were fighting for her. Why? Because she was a Caucasian American? Is that it? Because if she was a Muslim American, or a biracial American, or a brown Asian American, or an African American, then they wouldn't have done that for her. I can guarantee you that. And I see the same pattern here. So I'm sorry, I'm highly disappointed in the Canadian embassy. I'm highly disappointed in the Canadian government, that just because their national is not a typical white Caucasian Canadian. So, because she is somebody who has dual nationality, because she is somebody who is of a different race and a religion, so it was okay for them to suddenly declare it a personal problem, and they decided to declare it Pakistan's internal problem, an internal issue that Pakistan should take care of, and they were hands off. Seriously? What the frack? What the frack are you people doing, seriously? And you call yourself, what was it that the Canadian government has been trying to promote itself to be? A government that loves and promotes equality and diversity. I'm sorry, who's going to go to Canada when they see that their citizens are still not going to be protected in any way or in any case, if they end up in such a difficult situation where she is being tortured in jail? The whole world knows that the female workers, the female PTI members, who are part of the public. These are people who are part of the public. These are people who joined politics purely and purely at the behest of Imran Khan. These are people who before that never even entered into politics. Some of them had a political background, but majority of them didn't. These were women who became active in social welfare at the call of Imran Khan. So these are one of us. These are people from within the public. Okay? And in Khatija Shah's case, in fact, the thing that really, really just boggles me up is the fact that she belongs to a very powerful family. I mean, her grandfather is the former army chief. I mean, what the hell? So the army is disregarding their own people as well. As I said before, that there are two factions within the army. So now the US funded faction of the army is very openly and aggressively attacking even its from within its own, because they belong to a different faction, because they're pro-Pakistani faction, because they're the patriotic faction. Is that it? So, but so many of the women that they have attacked are actually wives and daughters, or granddaughters of incumbent army officials. One of the women who they dragged around the streets by her hair, and they pulled at her hair, and they pulled at her clothes, she was a brigadier's wife. So the army is attacking its own? Seriously? The army is allowing the illegal government to attack its own? That is just treason within the organization, really, within the institution. And then they're talking about respect for the institution. Institutions don't have respect, as Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah said. Respect is for the individuals, for the people, for life. Life is sacred. Institutions are not sacred. Institutions are built by us to serve us for a certain purpose. They can be demolished anytime. So, yeah, I am heavily disappointed at the Canadian embassy's futile, ridiculous, pathetic efforts, which are completely zero efforts actually. They didn't even bother to make an effort to find out what's going on with one of their citizens here. And despite the fact that, as I said before, that the whole world freaking knows that women are being raped right now in jails, okay, in their cells and under orders of the US imported government. So basically, by not doing anything, you are proving our point that the US, the UK are involved in all of this. They are involved, they funded all of this, they backed these people, and now we are now going to be forced to think that the Canadian government is also part of this conspiracy, that the Canadian government is keeping mum because they know that the American government and the British government, the two establishments of these two countries are behind it all, and that they have been funding this, and that they want to make sure to crush the people of Pakistan once and for all so that they can never, ever, ever be able to stand up for their freedom again. And the fact that the Canadian embassy is behaving in such a way with regards to Khatija Shah shows that it is complicit in this matter. So, apart, all everybody is asking is that these women should be let out. Never in the history of Pakistan have women ever been attacked like this. The way these US minions have come and brought their Western rapism culture, their colonial, how can I say it? I'm at loss. I want to say really bad words, and I'm trying to control myself from saying them. But you know, the Western disease of treating women as sexual objects, they have brought that disease with them. This is not something that is inborn within our culture. This is something that defies our religion and our culture. The fact that the westernization of such people in our country, that to treat women as objects, as sexual objects, and to suddenly think that if you rape a woman, then you can instill fear in her. Well, let me tell you one thing. You may think that raping a woman is going to instill fear in her, but in a country like ours where men have become so beghairat and so cowardly and they're half dead, you don't need these men. So I don't think, what's the point of having men in your families? What's the point of having a dog in the house if that dog cannot help you uh, or keep you safe from other dogs? It means that the breed of dog that you have is a mutt. So we have mutts in this country, that is why, and we have hyenas in this country, and we have mutts in this country, and we have vultures in this country, and there is really no men in this country left. So the women would now have to start taking back the power, the power that the Islamic system had given, and which the colonial system and our pagan ancient cultural system took away from women, which Islam gave back to to us. I think that needs to be brought back. I think women need to now snatch it, and very brutally, and remind them who's actually in power. And I'm sorry, but if you think that raping a woman is going to make her submit to you, you're wrong. Okay. I don't know which era you belong to where you think that raping a woman is. If the men around her cannot protect her, then at the end of the day, she no one has the right to question her integrity. In Islam, for rape is death. The Prophet ordered immediate death to the rapist, okay, without a trial. As long as it is confirmed that it has been done, then anybody and everybody who is complicit in it, who is an accomplice in it, and who has ordered it and who has done it, it doesn't matter who it is. Anybody and everybody involved has to be killed without any trial. This is the Islamic way. Okay, this is the punishment for rape. So, keeping that Islamic spirit, the Sharia spirit, I would say that the women are actually allowed to even kill the men right then, right there. So if the men cannot protect you, if our men cannot protect us, then at the end of the day, they have no right to question our integrity or our actions. So I would say that now rape is not going to subdue or women or make them submit to you. I'm sorry, or instill any fear. If anything, this too could just trigger. It could trigger a huge backlash. It could backfire very badly, and the women could now suddenly become, extremely vindictive, and they will just take matters into their own hands. So, because again, as I said, nobody has the right to question the integrity of a woman's uh, of a woman or her respect. Because if you couldn't help her keep her honor and her respect, you damn well have no right to talk about her honor and her respect, because you're the ones who failed her in the first place. You're the mutts. You're that low quality, that really low breed of dogs that we were thinking that belonged to probably more purer breeds. So yeah, a mutt cannot bark at somebody who has been bitten already, and somebody who's been bitten will not even mind getting bitten again. Okay, because if anything, that person will get more and more aggressive and vindictive and malicious and revengeful. And as many people have realized, many people have even talked about it, that you should thank God that women are asking for their rights back and not taking revenge. Because I believe that actually a time will come very soon when women will start taking revenge and having the divine power of life and death given by God Himself. You can imagine the amount of power a woman has over your lives. Think about that before you try to think that you can control women by raping them. Hello, which era do you belong to? I personally think that if in today's world, in today's time, where women are able to know the difference between being physically subdued just for the sake of psychologically torturing them, and being strong enough to shake it off and instead protect themselves and defend themselves, and even react to it, even if it means murdering the people on the spot. I think that time, I think in this time, to use such an ancient, ignorant tactic to subdue women is ridiculous and pathetic. It just shows the kind of people that we have around us. Equally pathetic are those men who could not protect their daughters or their wives or their granddaughters. Equally pathetic are those men who could not protect their mothers. So, yeah, I mean, you're all pathetic mutts, seriously. And even more pathetic are those people who think that you can just rape the women and subdue them. Yeah, well, yeah, no, sorry. Again, which time do you belong to? So this is it for now, because I really cannot talk. I'm too. I just cannot talk anymore. I am that kind of person that I would rather just take action. And at the moment, I am really angry at the fact that the Canadian embassy ended up being just another mutt. Really, just another mutt. Thank you so much, Canadian embassy. Thank you so much, Canada. Yeah. No wonder there are people now who are thinking against having a Canadian passport. I don't see it helping anybody. You're completely useless. This is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.